Hello and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nishay. To find show notes, resource pages, blog articles, and all kind of other goodness, head on over to my website, and that is NishaySnow.com. That's NACHESNOW.com. Today's guest is Emily Kelley from Land and She. She sells art, block created textiles, journals, all kind of custom goods. Her work is absolutely amazing, which is why I have her on here. If you're an IG fan, go over to @LandandShe_Studio just to check out her work as you're listening to her story. Just two things before we get started. The first, you know what I'm going to say. If you haven't already, please rate the show because it helps people find me. If you go to nishaysnow.com/iTunes, it'll pull iTunes right up. Or if you're already in iTunes on your phone or your desktop, just look for Studio 78 Podcast. And please rate me 5 stars and please subscribe to the podcast. And if you've already done that, please share it with others. And then the second thing is, I mentioned last week, I finally finished my journal, so I'm just waiting to get some edits back for that, so then I can get it printed. But I'm like thinking of all kind of goodies and printables and all kind of stuff that I want to do once it's officially launched. So head on over to nishaysnow.com/journal, or if you're already on the site, just click the Life Cleanse and sign up to get notified so you can get all that stuff once I'm ready to officially launch the journal, which I'm crazy excited about. But anyway, on to our amazing guest. So Emily Kelley, I took 3 main things away from this episode, and we talked about a lot. But the first thing is 9 to 5 versus being an entrepreneur. It really just depends on what's right for you, and it depends on, where you are in your life and what you really want. And I think that she gives a great example of how she's gone back and forth, and she's just doing kind of like what's right for her. The second thing is about following your passion, like finding that thing that like lights that fire under you. And if you decide to also like build a business off of it, she talks about that kind of brand connection that you build with your audience because they see that you're passionate about what you're building, which makes them want to follow you. And then of course, buy your products. And then the third thing is she gives Instagram tips. So she has like a ridiculous number of followers. And it's funny because really she didn't set out to just get a ton of followers. She was just sharing things she loves. So she talks a little bit about that, but also some tips that she believes may have contributed to her success too on Instagram. So those are the 3 main takeaways. But of course, we have all kind of other goodness that we talk about in the episode. And I hope that after you listen to it, you really just leave inspired and wanting to either try something new, or if you already know what your passion is, to really pursue it more if you really haven't been giving it like the time it deserves. All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome, Emily from the Land and She Studio. Thanks for joining me today, Emily.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Before we even dig into your studio and all of your beautiful designs, can you just tell the listeners a little bit about you before you started this business?
Sure. Okay. So, well, for starters, about me. So my name is Emily. I'm from Philadelphia, just outside of Philadelphia. And so right now I'm the owner and maker behind Land and She, which is a small shop of art, block printed textiles, journals, and custom goods. And then I'm also a graphic designer. I have a BFA degree in graphic design from Tyler School of Art. So before I started Land and She, I graduated Tyler in 2014 and started working for a design agency right away, which was, it was like 2 weeks out of college. So it was like a great learning experience. And like awesome opportunity. And I was so lucky to have, gotten into a job that quickly. And kind of fast forwarding through the whole process of how I'm in Land and Sheets today, I sort of had a tiny identity crisis when I was there because I had just come out of school and I was working with all these really amazing designers who were also illustrators and doing things on the side and really, had side projects that they were passionate about. And I was just kind of like, oh my God, like what am I passionate about? What am I doing? Like, who
Mm,
am I as a person, and how does that relate to what I'm doing in my everyday life and like in my work life and design life? So
mm-hmm.
I started asking myself those questions, and then I took an unexpected trip to Oregon, and I really hadn't traveled that much since then. I'd never been on the West Coast. It was like a totally last minute trip. I went with my friend, and it was amazing. And
Mm,
I just saw so much beautiful things, and the outdoors were completely like surreal to me. I'd never seen something like that before, and
mm-hmm.
so I just I was like standing on one of the beaches in Oregon, and I was like, okay, so whatever I do in my life, it has to be something that is tied to like what I'm feeling right now, and
Oh,
so yeah, so then I just like went back to Philadelphia and I was like, okay, I have to start, channeling this feeling. I don't know what exactly it'll turn into, but that's when I started drawing and then eventually, doing freelance work. And that's kind of how I started getting into more of like the Land and She as like a branded thing.
now were you doing this while you had your full-time job?
Yeah, yeah. So I was it kind of just started out as me sketching a lot and just kind of figuring out where my style was as, an illustrator. I had never really seriously illustrated before then. I got like a C in illustration in college. Like there was nothing, there was no calling that was like, this girl should illustrate at all. So it's like a complete shock that I'm even doing what I'm doing now. But so yeah, it started out just with drawing and trying to figure out my own style and learning what that was about. And so I was still in my design job during that time, and so there was a lot of like late nights and working during weekends and but it was fun just trying to like problem solve.
Now, at this point, are you still like doing this on the side, or did you get to a point where you were like, "Oh my goodness, I need to do this full time"?
Yeah, yeah. So it's crazy because I feel like there was like this, like, I don't know if it was like just like a feeling or like it just was nagging at me, I guess you could say, like all throughout while I was sketching, like I had to like kind of pursue this and keep going with it. So I ended up actually switching design jobs. And then, when I transitioned into a new design job, it was really starting to like get at me more and more like I need to, pursue this. Like I can't keep putting it off. And so that's when I eventually left my full-time job as a designer and jumped into doing this thing called Land and She that I had like no plan for at all. Yeah.
Now, question at this time,
Yeah.
like, were you still able to like kind of stay at home with family, or were you kind of on your own, like renting a place, and you're like, okay, well, I'm jumping into this, but
Right.
hopefully it works because I got to pay my rent this
Oh my
month.
gosh. Yeah. Well, thankfully, I don't know if I would be as like courageous if I did that, but thankfully I was like at my parents' house. So I was commuting and I was at like a certain age. I think I was 20. Right now I'm 25, so I was 24 at the time. And so, I'm on my parents' insurance, and I had all of those things kind of covered for
Mm,
me in order to kind of take that jump into doing, something full time and really starting from the ground up and not thinking, I have student loans, but my rent is, somewhat being covered, and I don't, have to worry about buying food and, all of those things that go into an everyday life. So
mm-hmm.
I was really, really lucky and fortunate to have super supportive parents. And my mom's just like, yeah, like totally pursue your dreams. And she gave me this like space that I now have as my studio. And she let me, tape things to the walls and just, she's a very creative person herself. So I've
Oh,
just been like
cool.
super lucky to kind of have someone that's just like, yeah, totally, like you should go after what you want.
No, I think that's great because I think sometimes people are in that situation and it's like that's like the perfect time to like if you're gonna make like a jump and have a leap of faith, you have like
Right.
at least some net there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's still scary, but but at least with family support, you're like, okay, like worst case scenario, if this doesn't work out, like I have time to try to look for a job and I'm not going to be like
Totally.
thrown out on the streets, right?
Yeah, totally. um so I mean, there's like a two-sided coin. So I think like every, young person wants their independence and, has their own space and whatever, but I think, there's benefits to kind of having that support as well.
So well, before I even talk about some of the business stuff, like I think like the style of your products are absolutely beautiful. Like, how did you figure out like what your style was going to be? Because like all of your products are very consistent. They have like a very distinct kind of look and feel to it, like this kind of like
Yeah.
block printing, almost like Aztec kind of feel.
Yeah.
Like, how did you determine like that was going to be your style?
When I was even in my sketchbook phase, just drawing things in, my tiny moleskin sketchbooks, I kind of channeled this feeling of like anxiety almost like into my work, which sounds crazy, but I kind of counted like every single line. Like when I first started out and did everything with pen on paper, it was super, super detailed and like very symmetrical. So a lot of like
Mm,
hand drawn patterns and just like very tiny hand drawn lines that were repetitive. And that was a way for me to kind of channel what I was feeling into my work and kind of go into like a Zen mode with it.
mm-hmm.
So I actually went to Colorado with my sisters, and there's a really great museum, like the Denver Art Museum that's there. And I saw this painting, and there's a style in India called mithila painting, which is like super specific, and the women there use like sticks and paintbrushes to paint on walls and canvases. And as soon as I saw the piece, I was like, oh my gosh, like I totally feel like I relate to this. They were using like patterns that I was using that were coming from
Mm,
like my brain. I had never seen something that what felt so tied to what I was doing before. And
mm-hmm.
so I totally like dove into that style and looked up more and found myself looking into museum archives for like 18th century art from India and like Morocco and all of these really beautiful pieces, not necessarily
Mm.
paintings, but like sculptures and everything like that. So that's kind of where a lot of my inspiration comes from. And then tying that into nature. So kind of bringing the two together and using these like patterns with more recognizable like nature forms.
Oh, very cool. And
Yeah.
so like you're like developing your style, you have like your stuff in your sketchbook. Um, so how then did you determine like what types of products you were going to sell
Hmm.
and how did you let people know like, "Hello, I'm here, buy my
Yeah.
stuff."
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, it's taken a while to get to this point, and like I could show you like five different piles of art that would totally be different because my work has just changed over time so like rapidly, but so differently.
Hmm.
So I think even just getting to the products that I'm at now, I started doing things with microns and then that turned into like paintings and then watercolors and then I tried pen and ink. Like I've seriously tried like every medium. And then I kind of like I don't know, there's something about block printing that I've always loved. It's
Mm,
such like a tactile process and everything is printed by hand and carved by hand. And I just love that idea of someone getting a product that they know exactly where it came from. Um,
hmm.
so that's kind of where I was like, okay, I need to just maybe focus on this art form. And then starting to print out textile was kind of out of the blue. I tried to do like a design on a tote bag, and I was like, okay, well, let me try to block print this. And I failed like miserably a bunch of times with everything that I've done up to this point. But I've just tried to learn more and more about it. And so table runners then turned into pillows, which turned into zip pouches. And it's just kind of kept expanding.
Yeah, they're like really, really cool, really amazing. I'm like, I need to take a block printing class because, like, especially on Instagram, I see everybody's creating these amazing patterns, and I'm like, I know
Yeah.
I'll get in the class and like create a stick figure or something,
Yeah,
but but it is very tactile. It's like it gets you off of the computer, and I just love
exactly.
like right, like the creativity that kind of comes from it, and yeah, I don't know, it's and what you've created is really cool too.
Thanks. And like I am totally like self-taught at this point too, which is, something to note. Like I feel like people get discouraged because they see, finished products maybe somewhere and they think, okay, I would never be able to do that. Like I've failed so many times to even get, I was totally like using the materials wrong and printing wrong and seeing other people's work and seeing their process has made me learn what to do better.
So yeah, so then how did you get okay, so like once you kind of got into your groove and you're like, okay, these are the things I'm gonna sell, like how did you let kind of like the world know, like, okay, please buy from me?
I started out on my shop on Squarespace, and I love Squarespace because it's such a branded platform. And
Hmm.
really, it was just me posting on Instagram, like, hey, I've opened my shop. I haven't really done that much marketing, which maybe I should do more of it, but um, and I think I was just like hashtagging things, and I think being featured was really helpful to my business. I got a feature on Design Sponge, and that was kind of like one of the first real like shout outs that was like, okay, wow, like this is making a difference in just getting followers on my
Mm.
Instagram. Um,
Hmm.
and then really wasn't even seeing that many orders until maybe like I would say maybe 6 months ago, maybe
Mm.
6 to 8 months. Yeah, it's taken a long time. And I think, part of that is, people just have to have a way of finding you and then building this connection with what you're making. It's really hard to be like, oh, here's this thing I put out, buy it.
Right.
Without people, yeah, like without people, because everyone has their favorite brands that they love or like clothes that they wear. And it's because you like that certain brand or that connection to that person that's making it. And so
Hmm.
you kind of have to wait for like a window of time where people trust you and see what you're making. That's taken some time to really kind of form a tribe of people that that kind of fit in with the not fit in but like understand and appreciate the style of work that I'm doing. Because at a
Hmm.
certain point I was like, do people even like what I'm making? I don't know. I mean, I like it, but I feel like it's so specific that I have like no one that's gonna like it. So Instagram's been like the highest, you know, part of like where I'm getting traffic from. So I owe a lot of uh, my orders from Instagram.
So, and from the for the listeners out there, like Emily has like 25,000 okay Instagram followers. So I'm assuming you probably started your Instagram account like maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, maybe.
Yeah, I would say, well, so I used to have my work on my personal account, and then I switched over to having a Land and She account, and I would say that was probably a year ago, maybe,
So
or close to a year.
now, for some of the new businesses out there, or even businesses that have been out for a while, like, do you have any tips? Like, what do you kind of attribute to you
Yeah,
being able to
I
like
have no
gain
idea.
that many followers?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I remember having like 200 followers and then,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that's a lot. I don't know. It's crazy the way that like social media works. I really don't understand it. But I think it has something to do with like honestly like the algorithm of Instagram, and the only advice I could give is the more that you share your work, the more people will see it, and then the more that people interact with what you're posting, it'll come up on other people's like discovery pages, and
Mm.
then and then it kind of creates like this domino effect, like more and more people will see it. And I think that that's what happened. Like I posted a process video of me block printing a card, and oh my gosh, if you had seen, I only have a tripod that's like 6 inches tall. So whenever I try to make my own video, it's such a like comedy routine. I like use stacks of books and then put the tripod on. It just is not. It's such a bad like setup. But I recorded this video of me block printing a card, and didn't think that like that many people would be interested in it. And I think it's up to like 100,000 views or something more like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, like what? So so I think things like that, when you're not expecting it, people were super interested in the process. And it's just something that I do, daily to make one product. But if for some reason it hit a chord with people, like they found it very relaxing to watch, or they were really interested in the process. And so the more that people started viewing it, the more other people saw it come up on the discovery pages. And then Etsy actually featured it like a month ago. So then that really like blew
Mm.
up my Instagram. So I think the more, if people are kind of looking for ways to bring more traction, the more that you put out, people love seeing process videos. They love seeing how something is made. And it doesn't necessarily have to be all like handcrafted, but they love when, someone's putting themselves into a piece. So I think the more that you kind of like talk about what you're doing, the more interest it will bring.
Mm. No, I think I figure it's like that. And I see like recently you did a giveaway too. So I'm curious,
Right.
like, did that help a little bit? Because I know a lot of people say like giveaways and collaborations also help bring exposure to your brand too.
Right. Well, that's something I saw like other people do, and that was one of those things that I was like, well, it might be fun to do giveaways because these people are following you, and sometimes it's like not nice to always be like buy this thing, buy this thing. Like
Right.
it's nice to kind of give back to the people that are like taking the time to like look at your work. So I don't do giveaways like super often, but when I do, it's like literally an hour before I'll decide, oh, maybe I'll do a giveaway today. So sometimes they're like not the best idea, because then I'm like, maybe I should give away more things. Like, I don't know. So yeah, so giveaways are fun, but then I feel bad because you're only giving away like one thing to like one
Mm.
person. Um, but I think it's
But
an
hey,
interesting
it's
way.
something though. Yeah.
Right. It's an interesting way to keep people engaged, and then you're getting, one more customer that might like what you send them, and then they'll tell their friends. So, it's a way to kind of get your work out there even more.
Now, have you found like I've talked to like some other businesses who have like really large Instagram followers, and they say it could be hit or miss on actually getting a lot of sales from Instagram. So they're
Right.
like you could have like 50,000 followers, but the sales might be just like okay, but it appears to everyone like, "Oh my God, this person must be like a millionaire," right?
Especially, yeah, like 10,000 sales a day. Yeah.
So, since like gaining a lot of followers, like did you see like a huge uptick in sales or was it
I'm
kind of like still
like a
gradual?
billionaire right now. I'm just a real good
Right.
no, I mean, so getting more followers definitely helps my order increase for sure. And just to give like what that looks like, instead of like maybe like an order a week, it's maybe like I'm shipping out. So my mail days are like Tuesdays and Thursdays. So usually it's anywhere from like it could be like 3 to 10 orders like Tuesdays and Thursdays are shipped out. It really depends on like the time of the month, if it's like the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the month, end of the month, if there's a holiday around. So like people are prone to buy things on weekends. It just depends on when that occurs. But like having more followers has definitely increased my sales. But I'm not getting like 10,000 orders a week. I think I would go crazy and be like, no more, stop.
Yeah, because it looks like all of your stuff is made by hand, right? Or do you have it where
Yeah.
you can like print some patterns now, or is it like all
No,
by hand.
it's all by hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I opened up to, I'm doing wholesale orders now too. So those are taking up probably like 85 to 90% of my time right now. So that has been like really great for my business as well as to be doing like wholesale accounts. But yeah, everything is by hand. So it takes a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird because like I got into laser cutting a couple of years ago and like I sell it on my like creative route site, but I recently took like a whole bunch of my stuff down because and I only sell like two things now and I am trying to mainly focus on wholesale because it was just like that it's like burnout almost. I felt like I was
Right.
getting out. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I had to go to the laser shop. I had to come home. I had to
Totally.
sand and oil the product and then package the product. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. But what I liked was, at least with the wholesale orders, it was just like, okay, you get an order of 10, 20, 30, whatever. You just make it in one big batch and then it's done and gone, right? And you
Right.
might only get like well, for me, like let's say one or two a month, and I was like, okay, this is great. I'm like, I'd rather do that than get like the onesies and twosies because it
Right.
was just like, I mean, it was like fun packaging it, but then it was like if you get sometimes like let's say 4 or 5 orders in one week, you're just like, oh, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was
Yeah.
tricky too because I have a full time job while doing it. And so it was just like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of work.
Right.
But,
Exactly.
but people love like that handmade goodness. So you don't want to like automate everything either. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
know.
kind of
It's tough.
tricky. Now, for
Yeah.
you, like, how about like, I think a lot of times when people have product based businesses, like the tricky part is like pricing, right? Especially for
Hmm.
handmade items, because you don't want to price it too cheaply because since it's handmade and it's your hours that are going into it, like, you don't want to lose money, but then you don't want to price it so high, like only
Yeah.
like a select few, the
We just don't think
elite.
about the time that you put in. Time is like the love is the time, right? Like
Right. So
you
how
can't
did you
stop.
figure out like what you wanted to charge for your items?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is so there's like two major things, I guess three, that I never really thought about when you put things in a shop. One was like photography, like the actual photo of your work. The other is like naming the item is like a
Mm,
huge thing to whether people will buy it or not. And then which I have some funny stories about. And then the third one is the price.
mm,
And pricing is something that is difficult because I mean, I love to buy things that are on sale and things that are cheap and buy my clothes from thrift stores. So when I'm thinking about pricing for myself, I kind of think about, what I would want to see in a shop and know that it's handmade, but not pay like a huge amount of money for it. Um,
mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. But um, so, I mean, it goes into the idea of how much are you actually spending for the materials, and time is like a hard thing to calculate. And I've tried to do it in the past. Like, if I'm paying myself like $10 an hour, I don't know. It doesn't calculate for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to kind of work faster on my pieces. It used to take me like a day to do one pillowcase, and now I'm doing, anywhere from 4 to 6 in a day.
Mm.
So it just depends, I guess, on what the item is. And for prints and things like that, it's pretty, standard because, if a print is 8 by 10, you can kind of go up. You can, set a price for that, whether it's, $40 or $28, and then kind of build from there based on the size and how detailed things are getting, the larger they're getting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of like a way to sort of think about it. And for cards, that is, another one that's sort of easy because you don't really want to spend a ton on a card, even if it's handmade. Um,
Right.
because once you're paying for shipping, you don't really want to spend like $15 on one single card.
Right.
So like no one, they're just gonna go to like, no,
Because
this
if you give that card away, you're like, whoever you give it to, you're like, you better frame this card, right? Yeah.
right? But that they're just gonna go to Target to buy that card. They're gonna be like, no, never mind. So I, I try to keep the cost low on that. And so when it's something like textiles, that's where, the price kind of goes up because it takes a while to print those by hand and, have those dry and then ship those out. So it depends. But yeah, I try not to go crazy on the prices, but make sure that I'm like getting some kind of, benefit for my time.
Yeah. No, and you said you had a funny story about naming?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yeah, I mean, naming is important because people, I mean, they'll see a print, and if you just name, you know, something like super simple, they might not be as closely tied to it. Or you can even give something the wrong name. Like my pillows, I've given the wrong name to, and so my mom is now like the chief namer of, all of my pillows. So like I think I named a pillow like the Utah pillow, and she's like, no, 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 that's a Sedona pillow, because that looks like Sedona. Like I've been to Sedona, that's not Utah. So I've named it the Sedona pillow. Now it's the Sedona pillow, and I've had a pillow called the Rosemary pillow, and she's like, no, 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 that looks like cedar. So then I didn't sell that pillow like at all when I named it the Rosemary. The day I changed it to the cedar pillow, one was bought after like maybe like six
Wow.
months. So it's like, okay, I'm not naming anything anymore. Like, you can name everything. But I think it's just, like, that's a difficult thing for me. I don't know why. Just to put, like, a name or, like, a label on what I make. But getting, like, an outside opinion is, like, super helpful.
Well, it is important because it's like, because it goes into like search engine optimization, right? So if
Yeah.
somebody is typing in cedar or whatever, like
Yeah.
when they see that pattern, like they need to be able to like identify with it, like based
Yeah.
on what they're searching. So if they do,
Well,
then they're like, ooh, love it. Let me buy it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And, like, I think when you name things, like, I named a pillow, like, the stargazing pillow. And I think, like, when you name things, like, cool names like that, like it really helps bring out the actual pattern and people kind of understand it more. I mean, that's kind of become like a huge thing, naming
Yeah, no,
things.
you have some cool names like the cosmic turtle print.
Yeah. Oh,
The
so that
point.
was that was just the turtle print. Like, I think we named that like 3 weeks ago. Things used to be like the cosmic turtle instead of just
Yeah,
like
it
turtle
just
print.
gives it like a little edge, right? Like the Mount Hood print. Like, no, I think these are really cool names. Cool. Well, before we wrap up here, I just want to know, like, what's next for you?
In full breaking news, yesterday I accepted a full-time designer job. So
Oh.
yeah. So my life's about to get a lot busier. But I mean, I'm really excited about it. And, it's for like an outdoor brand, and it's kind of coming full circle with what I'm passionate about, and they do some great things for the environment. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because sometimes people think like, oh, you have to only be an entrepreneur, but I'm like a big believer in like the side hustle. So you can
Yeah,
have like a full-time job that pays you benefits, right? And then have
right.
like something you're like passionate about on the side, and then try to figure out like how to balance it. Like maybe you do like, hey folks, I have one, I only ship on Saturdays and this is all the inventory I have, so buy it now, or
Exactly.
it's gone. But you just figure out like how to make it work without killing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think, during or like today's age, when people see like an Instagram account and people's lives look like perfect, or they only see like the highlight reel of people's lives, they think like maybe that's like their reality like all the time.
Right.
So yeah, it's like an interesting thing. So I mean, like it's something that I think about because I post like maybe once a day, and now I'm definitely gonna have to post less than that. And will that affect people following, or things like that? And I think it's good to just kind of like be honest with people, and everyone is trying to like do what they love. And sometimes that takes working multiple jobs.
It does. I mean, and that's like just like the reality of the situation. And it's like people need to realize like it's not good or bad or whatever. It's just like sometimes it's good because you get to interact with people. It
Yeah.
forces you to kind of like get out the house, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And learn new
Oh my gosh. Yes.
things.
I'm so excited to see like more people than just like the mailman and like the UPS guy and my dog. Like,
Right.
so stoked
And
for
it's like
that.
somebody who'll pay for like training and other
Yeah.
things, that you don't have to like pay for out of pocket. And I've heard other people talk too, like, and I think it was, yeah, even in a book I read last year, Big Magic, and that author talks about like, and when you have something that you love and you're passionate about, if you're trying to live off of it, it kind of like ruins it a little bit, right? It
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
longer becomes fun. So
Yeah.
that's like something to consider too, right? Like,
Yeah.
because you don't want to like
Exactly.
start to hate block printing.
Yeah, I know.
like, I gotta make
Some days
another
I'm like,
pattern.
oh my gosh, yeah. Like some days I'm just like, why did I choose this? But I mean, exactly. Like, you become like a production person. You're just like making things every day. And so I've definitely battled with that idea of like I want to still love this, but I don't want to just be fulfilling orders all day and not learning
Right.
anything new. So that will
Hmm.
be like a good like new adventure for me.
And then I've heard of other people too, they go back and forth. Like they have a full time job, then they work for themselves for years. Then they go back to a full time job for years. So you just,
Yeah.
who knows, like kind of where the future will take you.
Yeah.
Well, I just have a couple of wrap up questions. The first one is, have you discovered your passion? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, I love this question. Okay, so the answer would be yes. And I think my passion is just making things, whether that's block printing or, painting or designing. I just love the act of, making something new. And I just will never get tired of doing that. And I don't, I mean, I think that it's, important to kind of make things that you love to make, and um, you know, that changes over time. It doesn't have to be the same thing for forever. Maybe I'll
Hmm.
become like an ice sculptor or like like I don't know, like a weaver. Definitely not ceramic artist because I can't make ceramics. But yeah, I just love making things. So that would be my passion.
And what is something you can't live without? It could be like anything in the world.
Oh my gosh. I think for me would be coffee, probably. I just love coffee, and I actually went a year without any coffee or any caffeine. And I don't know how I did that, but as soon as I drank a cup of coffee after that, it was like the clouds opened up.
It was
There was like
like
no fog. I was like awake.
that year was just like a blur.
I think it was. Like I wasn't even sure what I was doing to myself after I was like, let me just have coffee. Um, Coffee's like a warm hug. I just love it. And it doesn't even have to be like the fancy kind of coffee. Like the coffee you get at like the gas station is like always like the best. Or like just like the 99-cent cup of coffee is like that's like
No,
where
so
it's
you're
at.
like real coffee, no foo foo,
No,
frappuccino, blah blah blah, like
no, no, no. I
coffee.
love a good latte. Don't get me wrong. And I definitely like, add that like sweetener and that half and half to my coffee. So I'm not, I wish I was like one of those, like I have to drink it black because I love the
Right,
taste.
like a purist,
Yeah.
right?
Taste of Colombia. Like, like, yeah. But yeah, I just love coffee. I just don't talk when I wake up in the morning. Like I cannot function without it.
Please let the listeners know where they can find you, like any websites you want to share or social media handles.
Sure. Okay. Well, you can definitely find me on Instagram at Land and Cheese Studio. That's the main, social media platform I'm on. I can only really take one. I mean, I'm on Facebook too, But I just kind of share things from Instagram. But I'm under at Land and She Studio on Facebook too. Twitter I never use unless I'm voting for someone on The Voice. It's the only time I use it. And but that's at Emily__Kelley if you want to see who I'm voting for on The Voice. And then my email is hello@landandshe.com. And my website is landandshe.com if they want to, ask me questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a joy talking to you. And I know someone out there will get like inspired and hopefully maybe start their own product-based business too.
Oh, I hope so. And if they have questions, they can contact me whenever. I love answering questions.
Well, I hope you guys really enjoyed that episode. And if you did, please head on over to nishasnow.com/34. And there you'll find the show notes, links to anything that we talked about. And you can leave a comment too. So if you have any questions or if you just want to tell Emily, like, thank you for sharing her story, please head on over there and do that. And I'll just say, I think this is another great example of like, your path is your path, right? She went from 9 to 5 to being an entrepreneur and is about to kind of delve back into the 9 to 5 arena again. And so really the thing about it is you just do what makes you happy, right? Just as long as what you're doing has meaning and has purpose and it aligns with your values and what you want to be doing, then it doesn't matter which one you choose. It just matters that it's right for you. All right. I will let you guys go. As always, please rate me on iTunes. I want to just read this one rating from Kathy. She says, I listened to this podcast for the first time just now. What drew me was the guest, Yetunde Rodriguez. I'm a fan of her work. I really enjoyed hearing the interview and learning about her. I like the host and the nature of the podcast, and I'll definitely listen to other episodes. Kathy, thank you for rating me 5 stars. And thank you for leaving me a written review. It really, really means a lot to me and it helps the show. So, hey, others out there, please definitely, if you have a chance, if you do that, I'd really appreciate it. And of course, head on over to nishasnow.com and click on the Life Cleanse to sign up for the journal too. All right. That's it. I got another amazing guest next week. I think you guys are going to really like her, of course, okay? Because I'm trying to pick only top-notch people for you guys. People from all different backgrounds that I think you'll love. But yeah, so I can't wait to introduce the next guest. Anywho, just make sure you have an amazing morning, noon, or night. Don't let anybody steal your sunshine. All right, take care. Bye.